Okay guys, now that chattering is the transmission. So there's something wrong with it. And I really need to find a better way of testing it. One of the reasons why I don't like Toro rear wheel drive is because they're problematic and they're more involved to try to repair, replace, service, diagnose. The whole thing is a pain in the ass. Now, we have a couple of options. We're going to have to take all this off. It's not so bad. It's not terrible. I have a few extra transmissions. But what I don't know is really how to really check one. But we're going to put them up on the bench and see. These gears are really good. The shaft is really good. So we're going to label this as, for that. Because I think I have another transmission that's missing that. Very often you see damage to the gears they wear. There's a little pawl in there and a little spring. And then that gets jammed or the keyway gets oblonged out and beat up real bad, and so then the shaft is no good. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong with a rear drive, and in particular there's a lot we can do if we have a problem. So in this scenario, these pieces look like they're good. We've got some extra pieces. Let me get started on removing all of this and we'll come back in a little bit. What happens is the gear is chattering in here, so this could be bad. The gears in here. We can take a peek in. We have to take this off. We have to take it off anyway. So I'm going to take this off first, and we're going to take a peek in here and see if there's anything we can do that way. Okay, so now we can see what's going on. So it's rounded off the pinion and crown gear, and you can see all the mung. Beat greased. There's been dirt in it. Somebody was in here, by the way. I found a regular washer over here. It doesn't get a regular washer. Okay. I'll show you a little bit when we put it back together again. So this crown gear looks like it's shot. Yeah, I'd say so. So let's go get another transmission and we'll pull this apart and we'll see, because these, like I said, these pieces are good. So this, I think this is the way to test, is you have to take the transmission apart, give it a good look over, and then you can tell whether or not this is what you're looking at is going to be usable. All right, so that's going to be a new standard practice for me, especially on these rear drives, where we're going to just inspect every piece and we'll keep all the best and throw out the rest. Let's take a peek in this one. I took two out of my stock inventory, and I have others outside that we can look at as well, but we're just going to start off with what's in my immediate inventory, because these are off the machines already. See? Big difference. Big difference. Let me turn it so you can see it. So this one's fine. So what we're going to do, we'll check the other one. And, I'm going to make this part of my ritual, my routine, and we're going to solve these problems before they become bigger problems. And somebody will get a, this belt's worn, so that belt's no good. The reason why I take them out is because you can't really even get the belt off. Okay? You got to pry these out of the way or take this pulley off. You can't do that if it's up inside the body. So you have to kind of take. You want to replace a belt, you got to take all this off. And you think, well, it's horrible, Arch. The way you're doing is you're taking the engine off. Well, yeah, and this is kind of why I don't do the rear wheel drives unless I'm doing a full resto or partial resto, because it's not worth it to me. If I'm doing a full resto, it's totally worth it, and to put the best parts in and have everything really great, and it looks great, and somebody's going to get a really good value, and I can get paid at least for the effort. All right, we're going to check on the other one. Okay, here we have another one that's good, and again, same thing with the grease. So Mikey set me up with a whole lot of grease, which is great, because I'm actually getting a little low on it. So thanks, Mike.
What's up?
All right, now when removing the parts, the first step is okay, this type of lock nut comes off. The washer is behind it. Then you get this, all right, and it says L on it. That's your left. This has an L. And if you can't see it, when I clean them up, we're going to go through a few of them, so we'll get to repeat this. All right, then you got to make sure you take this out, right? And there's a little spring. Now this is kind of worn, and so is the keyway. So this shaft might be dead. So this is a little worn, but it's not super bad. Okay, the spring is in here, and it's not quite coming out. We don't want to lose it. And they get stuck, and then when they get stuck, they don't work right. There we go, see? It was just stuck. We want to get that out. And it won't work right. They get jammed up. They get gooled up from dirt and debris. And now this should come forward. Sometimes there's burrs, and you're going to have to remove the burrs. But so there's a washer. We want all this clean and free of debris when we restore it. And this guy, you should be able to just kind of pry it up. Okay. Get your screwdriver underneath it and it'll come. And another washer. Right, that washer doesn't really do very much. Alright, let's go through the right side now. Alright, we'll just go through this one step by step. Alright. Now, what I do is I just kind of have it facing up with the little key and everything, and then I just kind of open up my plier like that. I just want to get it started. And it comes right up, and you can just put your finger near it, because if it takes off on you, it's going to go boing. Okay. So there's your key, your washer. Now we're going to take it straight off, and we're going to look at it, and it says R here, and you can see the R. All right, now I don't know if these have been off. I don't see anything that way. Now the worst case is, if you look at the cup, it goes like this, and that goes the other way. So the worst case is, right, as long as you have the R near the R on the R side, if it doesn't work right, you just take this apart real fast and flip it around. So we're going to try to validate as we move forward exactly which way it goes. Now, but let's stay focused though. So now this one looks to be in better shape. I can just tell, right? The slot is in better shape. The key looks like it's in better shape. Yes, it is. All right, so I don't know if this is the one I want to use. I think when I get it cleaned off, we'll see. We'll take a closer look at it. Now we're going to try to get the spring, and these springs, they get stuck, but once they go, you're going to put your finger near it. This one might be broken. Yeah, this spring's got some broken pieces to it. Yep. So that was what's wrong with this one. Yeah, and the spring is broken. Okay, so I definitely want to take a few of these apart and put them in bags, so I have my extra pieces. Then you got your washer. You got your other clip. And we're just going to try to pry it up a little. All you got to do is just get it started on this one, because then you can just, oh, there it went. Okay. Like I said, you got to put your finger over it, and there's your washer, and then this just slides off. This holds this assembly together, which you don't need to deal with. All right, and if it's stuck, it's because there's a burr somewhere. So you might have to clean the shaft. And I can definitely tell you there's wear on this shaft. But if there's not so much wear, you can put it back together and it will last a long time. Okay. So we need to clean all that up. Now, on this end, this belt's no good. So a couple of things you can do. If you lube this up, sometimes you can just take that off. Alright, we got our vice grip on the shaft. Now first step is let's take it off. Okay, comes right off. Alright, that should be tight. So it's still got a lot of movement, and I'm not a fan of that. Okay, so let's move to the next one. We're going to just kind of leave this one here for now. We'll take, if I like the pulley, it's in pretty decent shape. Others are kind of nasty, but we'll come back to that in a bit. And let's take a look at one of the others. And I'm going to break one of those apart, and just for comparison, let's see. Well, I can tell you that this one moves a little bit too. I can't really feel in there. There's a lot of junk in there. It doesn't feel like it moves the same way. So let me take this apart. Okay, I want to take it apart anyway because it's a nice body and it'd be a good body for restoration. And if that's better, then that'll be the standard. We're going to find out. Okay, I got it out. Now, this is off of the machine that the guy made, a Toro push mower. Toro rear drive push mower, no engine bail. Sold it to an elderly couple. You know, that's not right because they had a hard time pushing this tank. So I'm not seeing the slop here, and I think this is what we're looking for. All right, so this might be the standard. Let's just take a peek inside, and if that's the case, then I'm gonna clean everything up. This belt is even decent. Yeah, because it wasn't doing anything. So I'm going to keep one belt for example. One beat one. And if this is a good one, then we'll keep this as a good belt. Hold on. I'm working here. Let's try to get this over. There's a big rat's nest underneath this. Even though I cleaned it out, I couldn't get it out. Sorry, the air compressor's got to run. Gotta. Try to just catch the edge and just knock it up. I don't want to ruin the gasket. Oh wait, here's a good spot. There we go. Yeah, see? Look at the difference. It's still got grease in it that's halfway decent. Alright, so this is what we're looking for. See, the grease is still, you know, somewhat worthy. Look at all that out. So let's just put this back. I want to check. I think the springs might be beat, but because they've been stuck in there. So we need a couple of good springs. Let me clean everything up, take all the rest of the stuff apart, put away my toys, and we'll get to restoring a nice. So from now on, every time I pull one of these apart, I don't want to cross thread these because they're in aluminum. Every time I pull one of these things apart, before I go to use them again or whatever, however I do it, we got to check everything. So this is a learning. So I want to be good at what I do, but I also want to, in particular, I want a real kind of mastery over the Toros. I want to know what they do, how they behave, because I enjoy restoring them, and I want to make sure the customers get really the best stuff I can deliver. I can get them set up with. All right, so that's what I'm going to do, and we'll be back in a little bit. Okay, so the machine is upside down. All right, remember. So this is my left right now, so it's actually the right side when you're standing behind the machine. And I want you to look at the arrangement of the cup, the way the gear is. Okay, and there's an R. Notice the cup is like this. Okay. So there's your R facing out. Now this, we know this machine spins. It's just stripped. So we're going to take it off. All right. And I'm going to grab some pictures of it, and you'll see what's underneath. And there's the key. And now on this side, it's in great shape. So we may be able to use the shaft. We'll see. Okay, we got to see how the skull comes apart. All right, I'll be back in a bit. Okay, so now here you see freaking air compressor. So again, this is L. There's your L facing out. See the direction of the cup goes towards the front of the machine. Okay, so same thing. We know this one worked. It just was stripped. So I'm going to pull this apart. We're going to pull the rest of it apart, and we'll see what we got to work with. You can see here. Now I had been lubricating it, but you can see the shoulders are really tight. The key is in great shape. And on the other one, the spring came right out. Let me see. I'm going to try to hold the camera. Okay. Spring came right out. So that's the difference. So on this part, on this end of the deal, everything is great. It's just here. All right. So I don't know if you can get that off or how that works, but again, let's go a little further. All right. So what I see now, I like this shaft because it's in really good shape. So here's your bushing. There's one bushing. Okay. And then it looks like this pin. So we should be able to just drive that pin out. Now, probably going to need to clean that off. All right, same thing with this. So I would say the best thing you could do is just wipe all this down. Get all the junk off of it. We're going to need to polish up the shaft a little bit. Because I don't know if that housing's any good. We're going to take a look at that housing. But you have a good gear here. This shaft's okay. It's not as nice as this shaft, but it looks like it might work. So that's another thing we can do. All right, we're gonna get this one cleaned off too, and you can tell this one's more worn. So, but this gear is good. So it might be better to just take this bushing off. Yeah, this bushing's worn. So we're going to want to clean these up and see whatever the best combination is and throw out the rest. So let me clean this up. I like this shaft. This shaft was in really good shape. All the parts were really good. If we can get this part off, I just want to see if we just tap on that. Probably come right down. Might go one way or the other. Could be pressed in. Yeah, it moves. Alright, so it's just pressed in. That's no big deal. We put it up on the vise and put it in a cradle. Drive that right down. So we want to get it clean before we do that. So I'm going to clean this one. And we got to clean this one up a little bit too, because this one's not too bad. That's not too bad. This one was pretty decent. Yeah, that one's decent. But this one's no good. Okay, so another thing we can do is just take those parts. And I think this shoulder is probably acceptable. You know. Let's see what else we dig up. Now you can see on one of these old ones how much movement there is. It's just a tremendous amount of movement. So that could be fixed. But on this one here, even with everything off, right, there's not a lot of movement. So you can see. And I don't even have this tightened up. So what we're going to do, this is a good, that's good. We don't have to touch this, right? We're not going to clean that or anything. We're just going to put more grease on it. But we're going to get some grease in that, some oil. All right, I always lube these. All right, whenever I do a machine, I always show you these are lubrication points. They just need a little bit of oil. All right, I'm not going to worry about getting the rest of the shaft clean, but we'll paint it when we're done. Okay, most of that grease was good. It's just a little dry. So what we're going to do, I pushed it in all around everything. So I'm just going to put a little more grease in here and work it around. Couple different spots. All right, you don't need a lot. Like I said, the old grease was just a little dry, but as I kind of worked it around, this will wet it up, and we just kind of want to work it in and around. Hear it? Oh, that sounds nice. Yeah, eh? Yeah, eh? Alright, we'll put the pulley back on with a fresh belt, or a good belt. I want to clean out in there a little bit, so I want to just dunk this a little. Just wipe out the outside a little bit. Make sure I don't cross-thread these. I gotta decide what I want to do with the old parts. because they're worn. So I'll probably just, take what I want off of them and throw them out. And this was the one that came out, so this is the belt we want. We're going to take this. This belt is great. We're going to take this top. All right, this one's back together, and you can tell you hold this, almost no play, just a little bit of lash, and if you try to turn it, it will not strip, it will not, ratchet. But that's when they're apart. Okay, I mean everything's always easy when it's apart. So again, we're going to put just a little bit of regular motor oil in there and there, even though I've got grease. Squirt in there. Well, it actually looks pretty good. I got all this cleaned out pretty good. Blow it. And then we'll assemble it. We got to put grease on everything. A little bit of grease. And we'll assemble it back together again. Yeah, this is clean. I'll just give it a blow. Everything is nice and lubricated. Okay guys, we'll be back in a bit. I'm going to start our assembly. I'm happy. Alright, and I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do with the others. My guess is that you can kind of mix and match. It's all the same standard part. But if the housing is bad, we'll take a look at this one in a minute. But something wears inside the housing too. And if it's the aluminum body, then that's no good. So, my thinking is this. Now we understand what goes wrong with them. The various things that go wrong with these. All the different pieces that can go bad. So, a couple of things you want to check. When you're inspecting it, if it's out and you are parting a machine, you really have that luxury. The first thing you're going to check for is wobble in the body. If you have wobble in the body, then the body is shot. We're going to take this off in a little bit. We're going to see what else wears in there. But I'm thinking that the hole just gets bigger. It wobbles. It's oblong. It's aluminum and steel and everything else and lubrication, and it wears. This wobble in the body, you can still, if you're looking for parts, you can still take these gears off and everything and inspect. And if you're lucky enough to get the spring and the gears and the key, great. From there, you can look at the shaft. Okay. And like, if the shaft is all worn in here, and there's a little bit of wobble to no wobble, it's junk. Either way. Alright, the body would be good, but the rest would be bad. Now, I don't think you're going to get one without the other. If it's a tight keyway, and the shaft is good, you can remove this gear. So if yours is in good shape, if your body's in good shape, and the pinions are all okay, you can replace the shaft. So I will keep some of this stuff around. I'm going to keep a good shaft around. But if you have the shaft with the gear already on it, great. Another thing to look out for is how worn are these. And on that one, it's pretty worn. This one's not so bad. So these are nice to keep. So there's a number of parts you could keep. But if you have too much wear on a slot, if you've got wobble here, and certainly if you've got a stripped ring gear, then you got garbage. All right. So at least going in, next time I go in to put one of these in the machine, I want to know all these points are okay. All right. And if all they're okay, they could be a little worn, but they can't be so worn as to what you saw. So we're good with this thing. This can be installed when I come back. I'm going to put it in. I got to go clean up a little bit first. I want to check the rest of my gear after this is done before I put it all away. And then I'll have a few pieces that I want to keep, and the rest is for my buddy for the garbage. All right, guys, I think we do pretty good. So this is an example of what to look for on a Toro rear drive, and how to service it, how to check it, how to lubricate it, what to do with it, how to see if you can still use it or not, if it's worth anything. And when you're taking it apart, I've got some footage of that, of looking at the R and the L facing you. So we're going to put it all back together just like we took it apart, and we're going to test it in a little bit, and it should be good to go. And I think we'll have a really, really nice Toro lawnmower with a properly serviced and inspected rear drive. It is used, it is a little worn, but in my view, and I think you guys will agree, this is well within spec. This is a good used belt, there's nothing wrong with it. So in my view, and again, I think you guys will agree, that we've got a good service thing. It's not going to break or wear at any time. Everything's going to go back together with grease and lube and oil, and you're going to have a happy customer, and we'll be happy because we won't have a machine that's going to break down anytime soon. This is going to last a long time. Service interval on something like this, I would say, is about 5 years for this. Over here, if they're getting wet a lot and there's a lot of grit and dirt, maybe every 2 years. If you could do this every 2 to 3 years, I think you'd have it for a long time. I know on my Honda, as soon as the adjusters start to get hard to move, you got to go back in here. Absolutely, otherwise you'll have wear and it'll fail. All right, we'll be back, guys. If I end it here and you don't watch any further, fine. This is rear drive transmission service how-to. See you guys in the next one. If you guys want to stick around, I think most of you are going to want to stick around to at least see it work. Stick around and we'll see the rest of the finish of the machine. I'll give you some tips on assembling it. So one bolt is holding this side in. This is the right side, so we're upside down. And I lubed up the shafts, okay, slid it in because you can kind of move this around. And on this side, again, basically dropped it in, slide it in like this, right? Slip the belt down through, and we kind of have to kind of lean in here. And since we have a lot of extra or excess, we're going to put the spring on, and it goes on this bracket here. We want to hang the spring, which is the cable, pull the slack out of it. All right, and that's where it goes there. Now there is another one on there. I think it's for, there's another tab. I think it's for, you could probably use this front wheel drive or rear wheel drive. I don't think that these are particular, but don't quote me on that yet. I'm going to look into that shortly. It's another thing I want to learn. So this is all ready to go. Make sure there's no dirt in anything. Make sure this is all lubricated good. And now that this is in place, right, we have grease on the shaft. All right, we want to make sure that we line up everything. We're going to slide it through. Don't forget you have the door to line up, the bag door. Okay. And you have these little guys, which are really good at sort of pre-aligning everything. So we'll put these in, tighten them. We're going to do finger tight until we get everything assembled. You may have to move this adjuster out of the way. I know I did. Have to move it down out of the way. And once you get the screws in, basically in, then you can start tightening things down. And we have this one to do. And with these are the washers I was referring to. I was missing one, so I'll have to get one. That's why you want to leave it a little loose until you have everything lined up. It'll self-align once you have them all in. You get one of those washers. There's a washer here that I was missing. And we need a nut. We have one down here, so you could start off with those. I think it's yeah, I think I need one more of those washers. Yes, I do. I need to put one more in. Let's just start that. If I want to put a little lubricant on the bolts, not a bad idea. I'm just going to put a little bit of oil since I have it out. Alright, so we got this bar to put in, but before we put that in, I'm going to tighten up the rest of it. We're just going to snug them. Snugged. That's why it helps to have a little bit of lubricant on them, because they won't cause you any issues. There we go. Now these, I'm just going to use my adapter. Alright, so we're snug there. Now we got to put the bar in. Alright, let me just tighten this one down a little bit more. Just a little easier to do it this way. Then we'll take these bolts back out. Just for alignment purposes. Let's put this guy in. Up. That washer. It's gonna happen. This gives it some strength. Tighten it up. And that's it. All right, and we'll work on putting the gears back on. Gotta get one more nut. And so the next step, okay, you can see it's turning it. Just move the belt so we're okay. We're gonna put a little bit of grease on. And these move, okay? So we're going to use that to help us. Now we want to turn it so that the slot is facing up. Alright. Get some grease in there. First we got to lock the shaft down. So this is the right side. It gets two of these washers, these spacers. So you need two of them. Usually at least one side's going to get two. Just make sure they're clean. And they can have a little grease on them. Okay, we'll put two on the other side as well. Now we need one of these C-clips. And that just goes right in here. Just push that down. And you're a little bit in my way. Try to get it lined up. You got to have the slot lined up. Oh, I can't see. Hold on, let me get my glasses. Now I'm going to take my better spring. That goes down in there. And then your key. And I'm going to pick the best ones, as long as it's like that. Now, we have whichever one is cleaner. I think it's this one, the one we were using. Okay, so R goes out, and the cup goes towards the front. All right, then one washer. And then one of these clips, E-clips or whatever, snap rings, and line up. It's got a hook here, like it's got a little piece that goes down into the slot. So you want to make sure you go in that direction. It's got to engage, otherwise it's not on right. And just press down, and it's in. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side, all right? And then once that's done, we'll put the wheel on. We'll put everything back, and we'll test it. Okay, so we'll be back in a bit. All right, and just don't forget to put. This is where I always say I always put my lube, because these are the bushings of the bearings that the axle rides on, and you can grease it when you're assembling and servicing. But if you're not doing that as a general service, lube those points from the inside always. Okay, much better. Sounds right. All right, so now I'm going to start putting the rest of it back together, and we'll see what happens. We'll find out. Okay, when you want to adjust the cable for the drive, all right, just take the slack out of it. Let me back you up a little. All right, so if you want to adjust the cable initial starting point, just take the slack out. So make sure that the handle's all the way up, and just pull the slack out. Pull back on the cable towards the machine, and start here. And if it needs a little bit more tension, fine. It needs a little bit less, but you have to start somewhere. And most of the time with a good belt and decent cable, this should be enough. All right, so we'll find out when we get it all connected. Okay, let's test it. Let's see what happens. That's it, we got it. All right, now that is properly serviced. Personal pace, it just as you go, really is nice. I actually like the personal pace, it's kind of neat. But it's a bit more work, okay? And you really need to go through it and check it out. Let's go find a bag for it. I got a couple little things I want to maybe spray the hand a little bit. Find a bag for it, and then we'll be done with it. So we'll be back in a little bit to see the final on it. All right, guys, it's the last look. All right, I added that little piece on the end there. It fits, but it's not really the right one, but it's side discharge. It'll work. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. This is a classic. It's a Toro. And for those of you that are more interested in just the rear drive, you saw it work, and we're all done. And again, thanks for watching, guys. We're going to get to the next one real soon. Arch's Garage.